welcoming Rainbow Chen.
Thank you. Dang, you didn't tell the whole thing that I could fire him joke. Anyway, so hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Rainbow Chen. And I'll just start off really quickly. I just got to say, about voice in general, every single individual is born with a voice, and every voice is unique in its own way. It's special. It could be high-pitched, low-pitched. It could be more husky. It can be more bright and cheery. But one thing about voice is something that I learned recently, is that because of how unique it is, we have to listen to every single one of our voices. And these voices, the voices of my peers, my community, and even my own, have made me realize just how important voice is in this world. And so I'll be telling you about my journey, about my student voice, and the changes that have happened in my life because I realized how important voice was. So, my name, as you all know, is pretty cool. It's Rainbow. It's my real name. And it came from my parents who picked the name because they thought it was a really unique name and they wanted a unique individual child. And they kind of got that, I guess. And so I was born in Guangzhou, China, and I came to America when I was 10 months old. And I grew up in Winooski, Vermont, which is only about 1.1 square miles, so it's super small. And growing up in Winooski, Vermont for the 16 years of my life has been an incredible journey. Unlike the most of Vermont, I am a low-income first generation and a minority in Vermont. What you all probably not know about Vermont is that Vermont's about 98% white, and the 2% of the minorities reside in Burlington, Winooski. And as one of those minorities, it's really difficult to have my voice really stand out in the state of Vermont, even though the state of Vermont is only about 600,000 people. And so it was really interesting as I grew up in Vermont. Throughout elementary and middle school, I was a loudmouth, and I still am, but my voice would really be used for conversations, speaking jokes, and just speaking to other people or trading Pokemon, but that hasn't changed at all, honestly. But now my voice as a high school student has really changed and evolved into something where I can be using it in the world outside of just conversation and trading Pokemon. And so it all started in my freshman year of high school. In freshman year of high school, I was approached with the opportunity to take on and go to this conference called the Youth Leadership Institute. It's an annual conference held for New England students where sites from all over New England can come together at this one meeting and really discuss with each other about the things that are going on in our states, in our schools, and in our communities. And so Vermont, we're a pretty progressive state, and it was really interesting to learn about the things that students from New Hampshire, students from Maine, or Massachusetts, Connecticut are doing. And it made me realize, wow, I wish I could do that. And it was really inspiring to get to know that students from all over New England had the opportunity to really take on their education, and their opinions were important to what they wanted to learn and what they cared about. And that made me realize that student voice, not necessarily the fact that we can learn what we want to learn, but it's also having the power to influence our education and what we care about in education. And so that was freshman year. And when I came back from that conference, I had this goal set in my mind. I want to make a community or a world where student voice can be openly acknowledged, and where people can openly talk about what they want to talk and learn about, and what they want to learn about for their future, and live a successful and happy life off of that, even learning their skills, such as math and reading, but still learn what they want and care about. And so freshman and sophomore year consisted a lot of ups and downs trying to achieve this goal because if you don't know me, I'm very much an optimist and idealist, and I care a lot about really wanting all the people around me to kind of think the way I can. But unfortunately, it's not that easy. And there are a lot of people that I've stumbled upon who necessarily didn't believe in the same things I believed in because they thought that it was too optimistic and I should take a more realistic approach, or simply because traditional school systems are just too strong to take down. And I believe that is true, but there are a lot of barriers that we can break and that we can just chip down slowly at before we can attain the goal that we want. But unfortunately, there was a lot of frustration in my sophomore year that led me to wanting to take a break from student voice. Basically, a lot of things weren't going well, and the things that I tried to get involved in were pretty successful, but then did not end up consisting their ideas through, and those ideas would end up lost. And so, mid-sophomore year, I took a break and started focusing more on my studies. But then, in about April of my sophomore year, I was approached by one of my teachers telling me that I should apply for this thing called the Vermont State Board of Education. Now, I thought, what is that? And it sounds pretty important, I guess. And I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. My teacher thought that it would be a really great opportunity that I should really apply because he really believed that I could do a good job on it, and I just had no clue what this job was. So I looked it up, and it was a pretty interesting thing to encounter. There are a lot of people applying for this job, and it was students from all over Vermont who could possibly be in a much better situation than I am, where they go to a school with high test scores or a school that really pushes them to their limits with APs and honors. Unfortunately, my school doesn't offer that, so I thought, why and how would I get in this job? And so I took a stab at it. I took the chance. I call it my YOLO situation because, you only live once. You're only going to have these opportunities once in a lifetime, so why not? And surprisingly, after 3 long interview sessions in 2 weeks, I managed to get the job as a student representative on the State Board of Education. Now, you hear State Board of Education of Vermont quite often, but I'll provide some background information on that. Basically, it's an 11-member board that consists of members from all over Vermont, whether these be community members, parents, teachers, politicians, etc. And 9 of these members are voting members, and 2 of them are non-voting members. One of the non-voting members are the second student representative. There are 2 on the State Board of Education, and it's a 2-year term. Your first year, you're non-voting because you're getting a hold of what's going on the student representative role. And the second non-voting member is the Secretary of Education in Vermont. And then the other 9 members are voting members that can be anyone appointed by the governor. And so most of our votes are usually unanimous, and a lot of people wouldn't consider the power that a single vote would have. But when it comes down to those single votes that could mean a huge, huge change to Vermont's education, sometimes we have to do roll call counting votes. And so the student representative votes last. And I think it's a lot of pressure, And sometimes when it gets down to the 4 yeses and the 4 nos, the student representative gets to say if the vote goes through or if the vote does not. And so the power of the student's role in this situation is enormous. And not many states have this opportunity. In fact, very few states have student representatives on their state boards of education. States like Hawaii, Alaska, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, they have student representatives on their boards, but the rest of the 50 states do not. And even fewer states allow these student representatives to have a say and actually vote. So states like Vermont are very few, and the students on this board are extremely lucky to have this opportunity. And so what I learned on the State Board of Education was huge and crucial to my junior year, where I really, really pushed to try to get more student voice happening in our schools, whether it just be my own school and the neighboring school next to me. And in Winooski, we really try to be a progressive school, and we want a lot of leadership, and we want a lot of voice. And although there are lots of negative stigma around student voice in our schools, a lot of students have increasingly become involved and increasingly been having their voices out, whether it's negative or positive. And it's a really incredible change that you may not see in other schools around the world. And so junior year consisted a lot of that. And now, as I'm heading into my rising senior year, my final year in the Winooski School District, I've been thinking a lot about the future and really changing education for what I think the students want their education to be. And of course, that's a long way ahead, but really, having people discover the voice that they have is a really incredible opportunity that people should really realize. Because I believe that my voice is pretty unique, and I think a lot of people should realize that too. As all of you are sitting here and listening to me speak, and eventually listening to other people speak with their incredible voices, I hope that all of you realize how precious and treasured your voices will be. Thank you.